and welcome to this week's video. As you can tell, I'm looking quite different this week because I think it was last week I decided to just chop off my hair. I was kind of like fed up of having long hair and it was just getting a bit harder to like maintain as such, and also I want to dye my hair soon because the roots are showing and it's not looking that great. But enough of that. I hope you guys are doing really well. Let me know in the comments below what your favourite thing you've done in the past like month so far has been, and I'm gonna just jump straight into this week's video because I have a lot of books to talk about. Yes, so far this year I've probably spent a bit too much money on books and it's probably totaled up to about £200 I want to say. Oh my god, that is crazy. But I've read so many books. I've already reached my 2020 reading challenge goal, which was 50 books. Can we just take a moment to think about how many books that actually is? And we're only in August. So I've just compiled a pile of books as such that I have enjoyed reading so far this year, and I highly recommend you guys read them as well, and let me know which book you like the sound of in the comments. So I'm just gonna dive straight in and we're gonna start with a book series. I have talked about this I think in a previous book video or a favourites video about this book, which is amazing. I also, during lockdown, made a nice chunky Waterstones online order and got the other two books. So this is the first book, this is the second book, and the one I did read first was actually the latest and third. And it is a series by Nina Stibb, who is probably my new favourite author. And it follows Lizzie Vogel at 9 years old, 15 and 18 I want to say in here. So it's set in the 60s/70s, so it feels very nostalgic of the time, even though obviously I never grew up in that time. But like watching, like, I want to say period dramas. It's technically not period drama, but like the old school like BBC, ITV dramas that are set around that time. So I kind of know vaguely what growing up in that time was about. And this just feels very nostalgic of that time. It is hilarious, witty. The first book is called Man at the Helm. So it's about Lizzie and her sister trying to find a man at the helm for the family because their mothers had a divorce. They've moved to a village. And it's during that time they were frowned upon for not having a husband and like a male figure in the family that like is the breadwinner as such. So it is so hilarious trying to find men that are suitable for the mother. The second one is Paradise Lodge, which is about Lizzie working in a nursing home, and she gets a job because she wants to earn more money to be able to afford coffee and shampoo, luxuries that a bankrupt mother can't afford. It's just hilarious. Like, I can't describe how like smartly written this is. Like, you will read this easily, each book, in probably like 2 or 3 days, which I did because it is amazing. And obviously the last one, which I have talked about, is set when she gets a job in a dentist and becomes slightly more independent, but then events unfurl, and if I'm being honest, it's the kind of thing I would have done. Like, I would have been in that kind of situation if I was in a dentist. So yes, I highly recommend these books and I'm definitely going to reread them soon. The next one I want to talk about is a very, very dark. If you like psychological films, like psychological horrors, like anything that's very dark but also darkly humorous, then you might like this. It is called The Discomfort of Evening, and I'm a bit 50-50 with psychological horrors. I have watched some on Netflix, and a couple I've had to stop watching halfway through because it's felt too real. As such, like, it really disturbs me, but I like them, so I'm still gonna finish them, but they're like half watched. But this one is very similar to what I've like watched and read. So it follows 10-year-old Jazz, who has a unique way of experiencing the universe. The feeling of udder ointment on her skin is protection against harsh winters, texture of green warts like capers on my grating toes, sound of blush words that aren't in the Bible. But when a tragic accident ruptures the family, her curiosity warps into a vortex of increasingly disturbing fantasies, unlocking a darkness that threatens to derail them all. So it's actually written by an author who lives in the Netherlands, so it's obviously translated. I don't know how to pronounce their name. It's Marieke Lucas Origineveld, I think. But yeah, it is so freaking good, but also really dark. Like, she thinks about death. They kill animals, but in a really weird kind of way where they're really curious about what happens if they carry it out, and the fact that it questions like the whole thing about taking the power from God. Because their family's quite religious, she thinks about God a lot and death, and it's just really weird. And there are certain events in this book where I did feel slightly uncomfortable, but at the same time it's kind of like, she's 10 years old. When you're 10 years old, you think the craziest things. I mean, I personally didn't, but some people think the craziest things. They're so curious, they will go out of their way to do the most insane things just to find the answers. And this is kind of like that book. And the ending, it ends in a way where I kind of expected it to end, but also it was quite shocking at the same time. I'm not going to reveal anything. In fact, I will get my phone and read my Goodreads review because that will make more sense, because I'm literally trying to remember it off the top of my head. It all starts with a family tragedy that sets on the spiraling chain of questioning morals, the power of death, and potential resurrection and depression. So she did think about, if she killed something, will it come back to life, kind of thing. It was kind of weird. Jazz and her family experience death, but Jazz and her siblings, as well as her parents, in some ways inflict death themselves, or increasingly think about it. An interesting plot, as they are religious and go to church every Sunday, and her father likes to quote from the Bible. You could argue that the question of death is about being able to take the power from God and control life yourself, or whether God brings upon events himself, that Jazz calls a plague on the family. The ending is pretty shocking, and I can strongly see this book turned into a film adaptation that would mess with my mind. Just reading it made me uncomfortable in parts, but I couldn't stop as the writing is seamless and Jazz's voice and opinions are nothing like I've read before. Yes, basically. The next ones, I'm kind of gonna group into like a whole section dedicated, because there's been, obviously you know what's going on in the world, and I think it's important to start supporting, well, I have been generally supporting black authors. I've got loads of books from different black authors already, but there's just been like, I feel like an influx of recommendations recently about books written by black authors, and there's actually 2 books that have come out really recently. So I've got The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, which is my new favourite book, probably in my top 5 of books I've read this year. And I've got Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, or Killy Reid, I think it's Kylie Reid. And I'm going to start with Vanishing Half. Also got With the Fire on High by Elizabeth a speedo. This is a young adult fiction. So Vanishing Half is about two twins who are black and come from like a southern black community in America, but one of them wants to pass for white, and she does in her adult life, and the other has a black daughter who's darker than her. That sister returns to her hometown, and like people sort of judge her in a way with like her daughter being so black and darker than her. So it's kind of like borderline, I want to say, colorism as such. And then the other sister who passes for white does so because she wants the opportunities in life, because she's tried to apply for jobs being fully truthful with saying that she's black and she's never got the job. So she started passing for white and she's become pretty successful, I want to say, especially with her husband as well. And I'm going to get my review again because what I put right after I finished the book seems to really explain it as such. Set from the 1950s to the 1990s, this is a story about the Vignes sisters, identical twins, who live in a small southern black community and both run away at the age of 16. One returns eventually with her black daughter and the other moves across country and secretly passes for a white woman. Told not only from each sister's point of view, but also their daughters and the people that love them, many secrets get unraveled, desires and expectations come to light. Having said all that, this book plays an important role in shedding light on colorism, racism and even gender, because there's like a transgender character as well, and kind of like lightly explores the idea of being accepted as a transgender person in society. You find out why one sister wants to be white, what they had to do, what they had to go through, and the ideas of white privilege and supremacy. And then I put, Brooke Bennett tells the most riveting story that I want to immediately tell everyone to read. So that basically sums up this book. I really enjoyed this. Like, there were so many like twists and turns, and you also get a side to the other sister who's passing for white, her daughter, and like how she processes the fact that she's actually part black when all her life she's been brought up to think herself as completely white. So it was very interesting. And this one, Such a Fun Age, is also about a black teenager who's a babysitter, but then she gets pulled up for like kidnapping a white child who she's babysitting. So that was a very interesting event, and after that event, which happens right at the beginning of the book, leads on from the fact that the mother wants to help her, but it's in such a weird way where she wants it to be to her advantage to make her public image more appealing. So it was kind of like in a wrong way, and it felt like she was taking advantage of the fact that her babysitter is black. So it was really weird. So let me get my review because it's so much easier to read from my reviews of Goodreads. So I put, following Amira, a 25-year-old black woman who's also a babysitter for a white family, and Alex, who is a feminist blogger and also the mother of the child Amira is babysitting. The event at the beginning of the book that sets off the next chain of events is pretty powerful in its own right. Amira has to look after Briar, the child, in a supermarket while the parents sort something out. She gets apprehended by a white security guard for kidnapping the child. It's definitely a form of microaggression, and Amira has to get the white father to come and sort the situation out. What happens next is forms of white saviours and privilege, and the question through one particular character whether Amira is really just there to be the help is not explicitly said, but majorly implied through the question of wearing uniform and her responsibilities. So again, very interesting read, very educational. In fact, both these books are very educational, and I just felt really like so many feels for Mira, and the fact that she didn't want to take it further, but Alex kind of pushed her towards it, and the conclusion at the end of the book of how it ends is, I think, something that I'm glad Amira chose to do, because she shouldn't put up with this kind of like pushy white saviour behaviour from Alex. So yeah, I enjoyed those. And the last one is With the Fire and High, which is about Imoni, a 17-year-old teenager with a 2-year-old daughter, and she dreams of being a chef. So there's a lot of like really nice food imagery that makes me hungry, especially when reading it. And the fact that she names her daughter Emma to give her more opportunities, so when people read her CV, they don't push her aside because she's mixed race or black. And it's just really heartwarming to see her dream of something, but also the fact that it explores how a teenager can be a young mother, juggle family life, and also work towards her career goal, which is really, really sweet. And I fully supported everything in this book, absolutely loved it. And the fact that it's a young adult read as well is just as nice, because it's super educational. There's a bit about colorism as well in this book, and the fact that because she has Spanish speaking family members, she's not fully black, which is a weird. But yeah, really enjoyed these books, and that is everything I'm going to talk about today. So if you guys did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, click the like button below and the notification bell below. I can't speak because I'm talking too much. And yeah, do let me know if I've said anything wrong or right about these books, because I do want to come across as someone who fully supports things, and I don't want to say anything wrong, especially on the internet. But I hope you guys have a lovely weekend, and I will see you very soon.